For decades, we've all been told this one powerful story about our universe, that it all began about 13.8 billion years ago in a single explosive moment, the Big Bang. It's a neat, compelling narrative for sure. But what if that story, the very foundation of modern cosmology, is starting to show some serious cracks?
Okay, so let's get right into it, starting with our current official story of the universe. It's called the ΛCDM model, and you can see it visualized here as this, well, kind of precarious tower of ideas. Each block really needs the others to stand. Right at the bottom, you've got the singularity, the idea that everything burst forth from an infinitely dense point. Then you build on that with things like dark matter, this mysterious stuff needed to explain why galaxies don't just fly apart, and dark energy, a force that's supposedly making the universe expand faster and faster. The argument from the critics is pretty simple. If you pull out just one of these blocks, the whole thing might have to be rebuilt from the ground up.
Now, this is the dominant framework we use to understand pretty much everything we see out there. It's our best explanation for the cosmic microwave background, that faint leftover heat from the Big Bang that we can still detect, and it also explains the huge web-like structure of galaxies. For the better part of 60 years, this has been our main guide to the cosmos.
And here is where things get really strange. Just look at this chart. The stuff we actually know, the stuff we can see and touch, stars, planets, you, me, everything, that makes up a tiny 5% of the universe. According to this model, the other 95% is made of dark matter and dark energy, two things that after decades and decades of searching, we have never, ever directly detected. The entire model rests on things we just can't seem to find.
You know, this reliance on invisible stuff is really just the tip of the iceberg. The standard model is facing a whole bunch of contradictions and unresolved problems, what the authors of this new theory call cracks in the cosmos. And there are a lot of them. The paper we're looking at today actually lists nearly 20 of these long-standing issues. Take the Hubble tension, for instance. It's a huge headache. When we measure how fast the universe is expanding using ancient light, we get one number. When we use nearby stars, we get a completely different number. They absolutely should match, but they don't. And then there's the impossible early galaxy problem. The James Webb Space Telescope is finding these huge, fully formed galaxies so early in the universe's history that, according to the standard model, it's like seeing a fully grown adult just minutes after it was born. They just shouldn't have had enough time to get that big, that fast.
So with all these problems piling up, you start to wonder, what if the issue isn't the data we're collecting, but the story we're trying to fit it into? This is where a totally different idea comes into play. One that doesn't just try to patch the cracks, but suggests we need a whole new foundation.
It's called the Big Flare-Up Theory, or BFUT for short, and it starts from a completely different place. It imagines a universe that is infinite in space and eternal in time. There was no beginning. Instead, matter slowly formed out of the fabric of space itself. It clumped together over eons, and eventually it ignited in what it calls a big flare-up. This wasn't a moment of creation, but more like a chain reaction inside a universe that was already ancient and full of structure.
And this slide really shows you just how radical a shift in thinking this is. Instead of a universe with a set age and a single starting point, BFUT says it's infinite and eternal. Instead of space itself expanding, it talks about local dynamics. And here's the real kicker. It claims it can explain everything we observe without needing to invent dark matter or dark energy.
So, okay, that's a huge claim. But how does this new framework actually deal with all those problems we just talked about? Well, its approach is to go back and systematically reinterpret the 5 great pillars of evidence that we've always thought proved the Big Bang.
This chart basically lays out the whole argument, head to head. For every key observation, from seeing galaxies move apart to measuring that faint background heat of the cosmos, the standard model has its Big Bang explanation. But right next to it, BFUT offers an alternative explanation based on processes in an eternal universe. And here's the crucial part. It does it without needing to invent any new undetected substances.
This is a perfect example of the difference in thinking. We see that distant galaxies are moving away from us, right? The standard model says that's because space itself is expanding, like dots on a balloon being inflated. BFUT says, no, that's not it. What we're actually seeing is the result of something called gravitational sorting. Over an infinite amount of time, galaxies interact, and what's left is a population of survivors that happen to be on stable, receding paths. It's the same observation, but a completely different cause.
So this new perspective doesn't just solve problems, the theory claims it dissolves them. Take the cosmological constant problem.
It's this massive discrepancy where our theoretical prediction for the energy of empty space is off by 122 orders of magnitude. That's a 1 with 122 zeros after it. It's famously the worst prediction in the history of physics. BFUT says this isn't a problem with the universe, it's a mistake in our thinking. It redefines that constant not as some mysterious dark energy, but as a fundamental property of space itself. And by doing that, the massive error just vanishes. It's gone. This same approach is used to get rid of the need for dark matter, dark energy, and even the singularity.
This reframing even changes how we look at scientific history. You know, Einstein famously called his invention of the cosmological constant his biggest blunder. But according to BFUT, his math was actually right all along. The real blunder wasn't his equation, it was abandoning it because he trusted an interpretation of the data that this new theory says was fundamentally wrong from the start.
But you know, maybe the deepest claim of this whole theory goes beyond just the physics. It's really about the story we tell ourselves about the universe and our place in it.
The theory's author is very clear about this. They don't dispute the observations. The cosmic microwave background is real. The redshifts of distant galaxies are real. All the amazing data that astronomers have painstakingly collected is absolutely real. What BFUT disputes is the idea that the Big Bang story is the only possible interpretation of that data. It argues that for decades, just one story has had a total monopoly on all the evidence.
So we're left with this final, really provocative thought. This challenge isn't just about a scientific model. It's about our whole conception of reality. Are we living in the brief, fading echo of a one-time cosmic miracle that happened billions of years ago? Or are we part of a living, breathing, infinite process that has always been here and will always be here? The answer, whichever it is, really does change everything.